I used to believe my life was boring in the best possible way. That's probably the hook. That's probably where everything went wrong. I'm a 38-year-old man, born and raised in the Midwest, the kind of guy who built his life on checklists and quiet victories. College, entry-level job, promotions, marriage, house in a cul-de-sac with a maple tree out front that turns red every October. A 401k I actually checked once a quarter. A Costco membership. 2 kids. A golden retriever named Moose who sheds like it's his full-time job. If you had asked me a year ago, I would have told you I was living the American dream. Not the flashy version you see on Instagram, but the sturdy one. The kind your parents hope for you. The kind you protect with routine. My wife, Laura, and I had been married for 11 years. She was 36, worked in marketing for a regional healthcare company, and was the social glue of our neighborhood. She remembered birthdays. She organized block parties. She volunteered for PTO. Everyone loved her. Everyone trusted her, including me. Our kids, Ethan, 9, and Sophie, 6, were everything. Soccer practices, school drop-offs, rushed dinners on weeknights, movie nights on Fridays. Life was loud and exhausting and safe. Predictable. I worked in corporate finance for a logistics company downtown. Long hours, decent money, boring meetings. I provided. That was my role, and I wore it like armor. I say all of this because when people read stories like this, they imagine red flags waving like parade banners. They imagine obvious cracks. They imagine neglect, constant fighting, distance. But that's not how it felt. The first thing I noticed wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a lipstick stain or a late-night text. It was a feeling, a quiet, gnawing sense that something was off. Laura started guarding her phone like it contained nuclear codes. Face down on the counter. Always on silent. Taking it with her to the bathroom, even when she was just brushing her teeth. If I walked into a room while she was texting, she'd tilt the screen away, just enough to make me feel crazy for noticing. Then there were the transactions. I handle our finances, always have. One Saturday morning, coffee in hand, kids watching cartoons, I was reconciling our credit card statement. There were charges I didn't recognize. Nothing outrageous. $47 at a wine bar downtown. $112 at a boutique hotel restaurant. Midweek lunches that didn't line up with her work schedule. When I asked her about it, casually, she smiled and said, "Oh, that. Work stuff. Client lunches. I'll expense it." She never did. I told myself I was being paranoid. That marriages go through phases. That stress changes people. That I was tired. But paranoia has a smell to it. Sharp. Metallic. It sits in your chest and doesn't leave. The moment that broke me came on a Tuesday night in November. Cold rain tapping against the windows. The kids were asleep. Laura was in the shower. Her phone was on the nightstand. It buzzed. I didn't touch it at first. I stared at it like it might bite me. Then it buzzed again. I wish I could say I was strong. I wish I could say I trusted my wife. Instead, I picked it up. The screen lit up with a preview notification. "I can still feel you. Today was hard not to touch you. Same time tomorrow?" From a contact saved as Jason, work. My heart didn't race. It stopped. It was like someone pulled the plug on my body and left me floating above myself, watching a man I didn't recognize holding his wife's phone. I unlocked it. I shouldn't have, but I did. There were months of messages. Months. Photos taken in mirrors that weren't ours. Videos I will never unsee. Inside jokes. Pet names. Plans. Complaints about me. About my emotional distance. About how I wouldn't survive without her. And then I saw the calendar invites. Hotel rooms booked during conferences. Long lunches that were never lunches. A pattern so clean it made me nauseous. When Laura came out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, humming, I was sitting on the edge of the bed with her phone in my hands. She froze. The smell of her shampoo, lavender and eucalyptus, made my stomach turn. "What's wrong?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I didn't know who she was. I know, I said. That was all. Her face collapsed, not into guilt, not into shame, into calculation. And that's when I knew, this wasn't a mistake. This was a double life. Update 1: I didn't confront her that night. Not really. We had the world's quietest argument. No screaming, no tears, just her sitting across from me at the kitchen table, arms crossed, explaining that she was confused, that it just happened, that it didn't mean anything. I nodded. I asked questions I already knew the answers to. I told her I needed time. Inside, something was hardening. I slept in the guest room. I stared at the ceiling until morning. I thought about my kids. I thought about the house. I thought about how one wrong move could cost me everything. I also thought about Jason. Jason wasn't just Jason Work. He was Jason Miller, 41, Senior VP of Sales at Laura's company. Married, 2 kids. I found his wife on Facebook. Her name was Emily. I stared at her profile picture for a long time. She was smiling in front of a Christmas tree, arm around Jason, kids in matching pajamas. It was recent. I debated for days, drafted messages, deleted them, felt like a monster for even considering it. Finally, I sent her a message. Hi Emily, I'm sorry to reach out like this. My name is Mark. I'm Laura's husband. I believe our spouses are having an affair. I have proof. I thought you deserved to know. She replied 3 hours later. I know. I just didn't know how bad it was. We met the following Saturday at a coffee shop halfway between our houses. It was cold, gray, the kind of day where the sky feels heavy. Emily was thinner than I expected. Tired, she wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like it was the only solid thing in the room. We didn't hug. We didn't smile. We exchanged phones. What she showed me made my blood run cold. The affair wasn't months long. It was 3 years. They'd started when Laura and Jason worked on a product launch together. It evolved from flirtation to work trips to a full-blown relationship. They talked about leaving us. They talked about blending families. They talked about money. That's when things got darker. Jason had been funneling company funds into personal accounts. Laura had helped him manipulate expense reports, fake invoices, corporate fraud. Emily had found discrepancies in their finances months ago. Jason gaslit her into believing she was bad with numbers. I felt sick. Betrayal layered on betrayal. Emily and I sat there for hours. 2 strangers bound by the worst people we loved. At some point, she laughed. A short, broken sound. They really thought they were smart, she said. That's when we decided not to confront them. Not yet. We gathered evidence. Screenshots, bank statements, emails. We spoke to separate lawyers. We compared notes. Something strange happened during that time. Between late-night emails and tense coffee meetings, Emily and I found a rhythm. Not romantic, just human. 2 people surviving the same wreck. She understood my silence. I understood her rage. We weren't alone anymore. Update 2: We planned the exposure for Thanksgiving. Jason was hosting. Big house, big table, both families invited. Laura insisted we go. She said it would be good for appearances. I agreed. I wore my best suit. Laura wore the dress I once loved. The kids ran ahead into the house, laughing. The smell of turkey and cinnamon hit me like a memory I didn't want. Everyone was there. Parents, siblings, coworkers, Jason's boss, people who mattered. Dinner was polite, too polite. After dessert, Jason stood to make a toast. He talked about gratitude, about family, about integrity. I stood up before he could finish. I'd like to add something, I said. The room went quiet. I pulled out a folder. Thick, organized. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't look at Laura. I laid out the affair. The dates, the hotels, the messages, the fraud. Emily stood beside me, calm, unshakable. Jason stuttered. Laura cried. People gasped. Phones came out. I handed copies to Jason's boss. I think HR will want this, I said. No one yelled. No one fought. The power shifted like a door slamming shut. Final update: the divorce was brutal but clean. Documentation is a powerful thing. Laura moved out, lost her job. So did Jason. The house sold. The kids stayed with me most of the time. Laura tried to apologize. I listened. Then I stopped answering. Jason was indicted. Corporate fraud doesn't get swept under the rug. Emily filed for divorce and got full custody. 6 months later, my life is quieter, smaller, real. The maple tree still turns red. I learned something important. Love isn't what breaks you. Betrayal is. And healing isn't loud. It's choosing yourself when everything else falls apart.